it's Liz Yuille from Old Stables Crafts. Thank you for joining me again today. Today I am going to show you how to make this project. It's using the lovely limited edition Blended Seasons stamp set. I have it in Clearmount, and that's quite important for this because I am going to be using the Stamparatus, and you can't really use the Stamparatus with the wood mount version. This does come with framelets as well, which are gorgeous. They are stitched shapes, but they do the stitching both sides of the cut. So unlike our stitched shape framelets, the square, circle and ovals, which only do the stitching on the inside, these do the stitching on the outside as well. So your external cut is stitched too. You've then got some bow, some sort of just filigree, leaves, floral, more filigree, a leaf, and this here is the only one that actually coordinates with one of the stamps, and it goes with this. So it's the only framelit that cuts out a stamp, but it's super limited edition, only available in August. All the details will be over on my blog, linked below. So I'm obviously using the leaf stamp, and I'm also going to give you a sneak peek. I don't know if you can see that. Is it picking up? Yes, it is, yay! So I'm going to give you a sneak peek of a new product coming in the autumn winter catalogue. It's glitter ink. Well, I say glitter, shimmer ink. It's got so much shimmer in it, you need to shake it. It comes in 4 colours. This is the Vegas Gold. There is Frost White, I want to say Champagne, and Bright Copper. I haven't got all of them at the moment. Is it Bright Copper? Yes, it is Bright Copper. But I will be doing a little storage solution for them. So keep watching, because that will be coming soon, when I've got all of them. I've got 3 at the moment. So let's get started. As I say, I'm going to be using Stamparatus. So here is the Stamparatus. Now I've already got my stamp mounted up. I've already done a bit of just general stamping. So I've got it mounted roughly where that is. So the first thing I'm going to do is the embossing, because the watercolouring I've done by using white embossing powder as an outline. So I've got here a piece of shimmer white, and this is cut at 5 7/8 by 3 1/8, which is 8 by 15 centimetres. This length, you're looking for a length that is longer than or no shorter than your base card. So that's a sort of arbitrary length. It's the 3 1/8 and 8 centimetres that is more important. So I can see where my stamps roughly are going to go, and I want to go off the edge, because I just want to go off the edge. So I'm going to line this up down here. I'm actually just going to bring in my embossing buddy and just do a quick bit of embossing buddy first to get rid of my magnet, unfortunately, because my embossing buddy is on a metal clip so that it can hang. It likes the embossing buddy, the magnet a lot. Anyway, pop that there. It's not going to pick up much, so I'm not too fussed about having lots of magnets. Versamark, if I move this across a bit, let's pop an ink pad under there. That's it. And ink up my stamp and stamp it down. The stamp may not be 100% clean. Actually, it's not too bad. I am going to do it twice, just to make sure, because I do want to make sure that I've got a good wall for my watercolour. And then all I'm going to do is take that off and turn it through 180 degrees and pop it back in about the same place. Doesn't have to be exact. And then add my magnet where it's not going to get involved in either what we've already stamped or what we're about to stamp. And then do that again. And that is that. We will be using our stamp apparatus again in a moment, so I'm not going to put it away just yet, but I am going to bring in my white embossing powder and remove my piece of, this is, did I say this is shimmer white? If I didn't, it's shimmer white. Now I have tried this on watercolour paper, and actually the watercolour paper is almost too good, because I want pools of water. I am no good at watercolour, so I'm going to be letting the water do the work. And watercolour paper takes water so well that it actually kind of absorbs the water too much. So yeah, shimmer white is your friend. So just make sure that that has got everything covered. Just want a little bit more down at the bottom here. And just gently tap on the back. And then get rid of that and put its lid back on. And then we can emboss it. Now I apologise if the lighting's a bit weird. When I started prepping this morning, we had torrential rain. Because having had a heat wave, we've now got what I would call our normal summer weather, which is sunshine and showers. And I think the showers are kind of making up for the lack of rain for a while. So we've had quite a lot of rain this morning. So I have put on one of my lamps, but I'm hoping that the lighting is okay. Now, as ever with your heat tool, heat it up before you put it on your embossing, because that way you're going to get it to melt better. So apologies for the noise. Right, okay, and I've got this on my trusty cheese board with my fold back clip. And then I am not a wafter. I like to make sure that everything is melted and then move on. The wooden cheese board does help a bit in keeping everything reasonably flat, because the heat reflects back off the wood. I mean, wood is an absorber of heat. It's not a very good conductor, so it will reflect back. See, you can get science lessons when you watch my videos. Okay, that looks okay. Let's turn... Ooh, I'm all thumbs this morning. That's it. Turn my heat tool off and pop it back on its little hook to cool down. Right, okay, so I'm going to do the remains of the stamping, so I can get rid of the stamp apparatus. I've got a piece of pumpkin pie cardstock, and this is cut at 1.5 inches or 4 centimetres by 15 centimetres, 6 inches. Again, you need the width rather than the length. You need the length to be longer than your card base, and I'm using an ordinary A6 card base. Now this, I'm going to want to stamp as much as possible, because this is going to be this strip here. So I want as much of the leaf pattern on here as possible. I don't mind if it's crooked. And this is going to be the edge that's going to be on the edge. So I just wanted to make sure everything was clean, which it is. So I am going to have to do some piecing, probably. Let's switch ink pads. I'm not worrying about clearing the Versamark off before I use the Cajun Craze. It doesn't actually matter too much. Putting Versamark onto your Cajun Craze ink pad is not a big deal. There we go. And if I, turn that round, I may have to, as I say, come in and fill in some gaps, but that's fine, we can do that. Actually move across it. No, I'll go that. No, I'll go that way. Used to be indecisive, and now all that stuff. And you'll see I've got this piece of grid paper just tucked in here so that the base of my Stamparatus doesn't get all covered in ink, because although it's wipeable, it's best not to, really. So now I can see where, well, particularly if I stamp it again. So let's turn this over so I've got a nice, well, relatively clean surface, and there'll be enough ink on there. So let's just stamp that down, and that means I can then see where the leaves are falling, pardon the pun. So I can pop that one, I want something in there, so I can pop that there, and then if I ink up my stamp, I can fill in that gap, and I don't mind that things are coming in. And again, I can just get that to tweak there. Oops, gosh, this is such a strong magnet, it's actually beginning to rip my washi tape, which is fine. I can put another piece of washi tape on. There we go, and then let's flip that round. Of course, I've now moved my piece of... So that should pretty much do the deed. Yep, and again, I don't mind that I've got that bit up the top. I should actually re-ink it so that it's obviously there. And there we go. So that will then go down the side of our card. So I can now get rid of the Stamparatus, and say leaving the grid paper in there means that I have not started building up a dirty Stamparatus. Now I'm going to leave this open because I actually want to do the watercolouring. So I've got Cajun Craze and, that needs a bit more, and Pumpkin Pie. So it's just the two ink pads and the two colours of cardstock with the shimmer white, and then there will be a liner. Ooh, which reminds me, might as well do the liner whilst I remember, or not. So let's pop that there. So what I need now is my chamois, because I want the liner stamped in Pumpkin Pie, because I want that to be just a bit lighter. So that was, of course, off camera, cleaning up my stamp. Sorry about that. Let's bring that in a bit. So again, we know where my stamp is going to hit. So let's move that out of the way. So bring up my magnet, and I want the bottom just to have some stamping on it. So ink up my stamp with Pumpkin Pie and stamp, and there we are. So just a little bit of something on the inside of the card just to bring it all together. Right, so that really is all the stamping we need to do. So let us start on the watercolouring. Now I'm going to leave the watercolouring on my, or the piece of shimmer white on my board. I have got here a little palette with water, and then this is some of the Vegas Gold, which we'll deal with in a moment. But to start with, now here's the thing with shimmer white. You do want a reasonable amount of water before you start. Whichever you're doing. You want, are we in camera? Let's come back up a bit. You want there to be enough water that you can really see it. You don't want it damp, you want it wet. Now this is a clean this aqua painter. The others I'm going to be using 3 aqua painters, and they're all the ones with the thin nib. You get them in a pair with a thin nib and a thick nib. You can use a paintbrush if you would rather, but I do like the water brushes because they have got water in them. But you really need to get a good amount of water actually onto your paper, which is why it's quite useful just to have a palette of water as well, so that you're not squeezing so much that you've got masses and masses and masses and masses of water, because you don't actually want a puddle, you want it wet. The shimmer will absorb a bit of the water, and this is where, as I say, the watercolour paper is not really, I couldn't get it to work as well because it was absorbing too much of the water, because that's, after all, what watercolour paper does. So I may need to come back and add some more, but in the meantime, let's bring in our others. So one for my Cajun Craze and one for my pumpkin pie, and then I'll keep my clean one separate. And already I'm having to come back in, and it's not a hot day. What this would have been like when it was 30 degrees, I do not know. Right, okay, so pick up a little bit of Cajun Craze and just add it to your leaf, and this is where I say you need the water, because you want the water to do the work for you. So let's come in and add some more water, because this is going to do all of the work of the painting. So you don't actually need to be that good at watercolouring, because it does it for you. So as I add the colour, the water is just taking it, and then if I come in at the other end with the pumpkin pie, it will all meld together. That needs a bit more water. And then I've just got a piece of kitchen paper off to the side that will clean up my clean water brush to keep it clean. It's not the end of the world if they contaminate each other, but I just do like having a clean brush as well as a not so clean brush. So really all I'm doing is adding and letting the water do its work. And you will get bits in the middle where they're kind of like highlights, and that's kind of the general idea. So what I tend to do is do one leaf at a time, and not do the leaves that are next to each other, because then there's less likelihood of them running into each other. So again, adding a good amount of water. Now what you can do is add water to all of your leaves and then go back and start again, because it will sort of start to soak in without going too mad. So this is the Cajun Craze, so you can then go back and add a bit more water, and you've already done some of the kind of soaking bit or absorption. So Cajun Craze, pumpkin pie. Can you see it's just doing all the work pretty much for me? So all I'm doing is putting it down and just letting that water take it. It's just such a lovely, easy technique, and you get such lovely results. So, needless to say, I have done one already, because watching this is literally going to be like watching paint dry. What I'm just going to show you before I switch over to here's one I've prepared earlier is, actually did I prepare all of it? Yes I did. So let's just shut those up and bring in our little palette, and this is where I've got a tiny little amount of the gold, and all you do is you shake it up, and it is a liquid, so you shake it up, and all I did was open the lid and just scoop some out of the lid, because you need the smallest amount. And then I've got another aqua brush which actually hasn't got a huge amount of water in it, but then you just manipulate your, let's get some down from the side, you do not need very much. And then all I've done, when I actually waited until it was fully fully dry, and then came in and added the Vegas Gold. Now this is shimmer paper, so there is a bit of a shimmer on it anyway, but when you see the final result, well, you've seen the final result, it's just stunning. So yeah, just add, and it actually dries more shimmery than it is when it's wet. So the shimmer comes out the drier the paint gets. And you can add it to a spritzer. I'm going to have such fun with this. And for Christmas, the white and the champagne are going to be phenomenal. So, they all are. So let's just tidy up the aqua brushes and then pop everything together. Because as I say, I have done a Blue Peter special and prepared one. So let's get rid of our ink pads, get rid of this one. I mean, you can see, I hope, can you see the shimmer? I'm not sure if you can. Anyway, so that's what we're making. I have prepared one and had it under. Yes, this is better. I think this will be better. Can you see? Can I get it to show up? I think there you can see it. I mean, so all I've done. There was some logic in this. So I've put gold on the leaves that are on top. So not this one and not this one. But if it was I didn't actually have any to there, but if it was an on the surface leaf, I put gold. And if it wasn't, I didn't. So the only other thing we need to stamp is the sentiment. And I've just got a scrap of cardstock for that. So I'm going to use the Cajun Craze and the Wishing You All the Best. And then we can put the whole thing together. Yay! So ink that up. And I'm using an enormous block, really. This is a D block, but it's fine. I do find that my D block is probably my most useful block. Excellent. It's straight, always a plan. I could have used the Stamparatus, obviously, but hey. So grab my trimmer. So this is, how big is this? This is 2 1/4 inches wide, but basically it's just the width of the sentiment. And then all I'm going to do is trim it down so that it's, you know, the right sort of size for this stamped sentiment, which happens to be it's going to be what, 5/8 of an inch, just over 5/8 of an inch. So not 5/8, 7/8, nearly an inch. But it's a kind of arbitrary. I do like to cut it. I like to stamp it first and then cut it down, because that way you can space it better. Right, so Cajun Craze card base. So it's a half sheet of A4 scored down the middle and then just burnished. And then I've got my piece of pumpkin pie. Let's get my glue so that it's actually at the end of the nozzle. And I'm just going to scribble that across the back. I'm just going to make sure that I get it down that edge, because that's going to be on the edge. No, it's not. It's the other edge. I love it when my brain's not working. Oh, and now, of course, the sun's coming out. So I might even turn off my table lamp. And this, as I say, is deliberately long. So I will come back in a moment and trim that off. But I need to make sure that I've got this in the right place as well. So again, I'm using my multi-purpose liquid adhesive, green glue. As much as anything, because there's been so much water on the shimmer card, it's quite useful to have a really solid adhesive. And you can't get much better than the multi-purpose. So pop that down and just pop that down so it lines up with the bottom. And if the bottom lines up, everything else should as well. See, that I cut at a much better length. So turn it over and press it down. So that's nice and flat. And while we're at it, we might as well pop our inner in, if you see what I mean. And again, I'm just going to use a scribble of multi-purpose liquid adhesive and a literal scribble, and I'm just going to take it down the edges so that we know that those are adhered. You do not need more than that. This really is a question of less is more. If you put too much on, it's going to take too long to dry. It's going to warp your card and your paper. It's just not a good look. So, trim the back off. As I say, I did a much better job of getting the shimmer white the same length, but let's just open that up. I will just make sure that it is absolutely trimmed level. And all I'm doing is running the top blade of my scissors. I'm pushing against the top edge of the card base. So I'm moving the bottom rather than the top, and that way I know that I've got a straight edge against a straight edge. So there we go. Right, gold metallic thread, and I'm just going to prep the back of my sentiment by popping some snail. That's all it needs, just a little bit of snail. Then I'm going to run some of that off and wrap it around my fingers. I'm using 4 fingers, and it's just however many times you want it round, really. And wind the rest back onto the reel. Now I've cut, not with my snip, a little dent, snip into the top of my metallic thread so that I know it's going to have somewhere to sit, because otherwise you can end up with it going everywhere. And then popping it into a figure of 8, and then pop that in the middle, and then make sure your ends are tucked in. So I've got an end there, so let's pop that down, and I should have another end there. Come along, end. So we'll pop that down, so those ends are nicely tucked in, and then just splay this out a bit so that it's just not obviously a figure of 8. Good grief, we're on 27 minutes. I need to get a wiggle on because my camera will think I've gone to sleep in half an hour. Yes, half an hour. Good grief, we've been doing this for half an hour. Seriously. Wow. Okay, I apologise. So I'm just going to take an edge piece. Hopefully that's about the right length. And then we will be done. I'm panicking now. So all the details will be on the blog post that is linked immediately below. If you wish to shop with me, then the Hostess Code is also below. If you shop with me and you use the Hostess Code, you get to share in the rewards, which is always good fun. And during August, if you shop with me, you also go into my prize draw. Details on my blog post immediately below. So there you are. Sorry it took quite so long. I hoped that doing a Blue Peter, it would have been quicker than that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already got a Christmas, an autumn winter catalogue, and you don't already work with a demonstrator, I'm sending mine out to my customers any day now. But that's where you will find this. If you don't already have a demonstrator, please drop me an email and I will get a catalogue out to you if you're in the UK. I only work in the UK. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!